What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves. Hi, my loves. Welcome to another great episode of the All Around. I am your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Woo! And we have some hot topics that we are going to discuss tonight. So, of course, we talk about different topics from around the world, what's happening in our local politics, the national politics, and things like that. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring out my producer, Mark Lee, so we can jump right in and get started.
Glad to jump in with you and everything. How are you doing? Everything's going well. Yeah, you're always looking lovely and all along those lines. I was going to ask you something because I saw we had another crazy person that decided they wanted to jump into the political fray and to support Donald Trump. So apparently Antonio Brown, who used to be a player for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe was the team he played for, has come out and said that he's going to support Donald Trump and all along those lines. So I don't know if you had any crazy thoughts about another person that wanted to jump in and throw their support behind this crazy person that wants to be president.
I mean, like I said, for the life of me, I don't understand why minority men are supporting this person. He has a Donald Trump, that is, he has a new lawsuit from the Central Park Five, stating that he misrepresented some information and things like that, which we already know. He always misrepresents information and lies about things that's happening and things that's going on, and he's still spreading the misinformation about these young men who were falsely accused, and the rapist was already in jail, but because the parents did not have money to fight the case, they were tried and convicted unlawfully, and things like that or whatever. So yes, he is definitely going to be tried and convicted. So I cannot wait until that happens and that takes place. I see that the Supreme Court has already shot down Michael Cohen's case against him. They won't allow it to go for any further, but we already know that anytime it's anything against him and things like that, he has a handpicked Supreme Court. So they're basically protecting him and things like that. So, for me, with, like black men and black people who are supporting this person, it is absolutely insane, as to why and how that these people are, still in their right mind can support this man. Honestly.
Well, I don't get it. Well, I was glad, like I told you earlier, last Thursday, I had the pleasure of hooking up with Daybreakers, which is a dance group. I think they might be based in New York. I can't remember where their home base is, but they used to do worldwide raves before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, I kind of met them through Zoom because they were doing Zoom versions of it and everything. But they had an event here in Durham, and we marched to the polls and had a decent crowd, not a great crowd, but a decent crowd. And that was the first day of early voting. And then I think it was either Friday or Saturday, some of our students from our HBCU did a Soul to the Polls kind of rally, and that actually had major attendance because I think that they had drums and everything else. But in both events, they got the youth mobilized and got folks out there. So hopefully that's what we're seeing around the nation is the youth mobilizing and getting out there to vote for Kamala Harris and all along those lines. But like I said, I've heard about both of those events, and both of those events seem like they were good events in that sense and all along those lines. So I don't know how things have been going in DC, as I was asking you earlier, but we've got a lot going on here just at the Cultural Center, because as folks can tell, sometimes I'm doing the show from here, but we just had a full week. We had the Durham Symphony do American music yesterday, and we had the quilters here, African-American quilters, showing and demonstrating what they do on Saturday, and then we had the poetry slam, and then we had a movie that you would find interesting. It was called God Talk, which was about how millennials are handling religion and how many of them are going that spiritual path and all along those lines. But it is a movie that was sponsored partially by the Smithsonian and some other organizations here in this area, but apparently they're taking it on a nationwide tour. But they're asking young people how they are dealing with religion or not dealing with religion. Because I know you came and you have not hidden it from a religious background, but we were just talking about how a lot of the church folks, and particularly the millennials, are not pleased with the direction that church is going in terms of giving them a voice. I'll just lay it as that. But I don't know how you feel about that as one that grew up in that environment.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, my thing is, you have to seek your faith and, follow what you believe. You cannot rely on someone else to, present the information. You have to read the Bible for yourself, and when you idolize humans, you're going to always be, let down because humans make mistakes. And a lot of times, a lot of people idolize these pastors and they look at them as if they're celebrities and look at them as if they're God and things like that or whatever. And, when something doesn't happen, their feelings are hurt, then they want to turn against the church. But the church didn't do you anything. It was the person who is a representative of the church that did you something. If you're going to get upset with the person. You don't get upset with the church and turn your back on your religion and your calling and things like that. But, like I said, from early on, to each his own. I'm not going to stop, believing in God because somebody says something that I didn't agree with or something that I don't like and things like that or whatever. Again, to each his own. If that's the route that you want to take, if that's the route that you want to go, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? But you have to be a seeker of knowledge, and you have to understand and read the Bible for yourself in order to gain knowledge and in order to get that spirit of discernment and things like that, so you can understand and you can comprehend the word. And when you know that there are false prophets, you can recognize the falseness against the realness and things like that or whatever. So even, my thing is, if you were not even brought up in the church, you can still seek knowledge and you can still seek that understanding, and you can visit different churches. You can talk to different people. It's not just a one size fits all type situation.
Right.
For example, the pastor in Houston made a statement that giving to the poor is not a blessing. You don't get no benefit from giving to the poor. And my thing is to each his own. I'm not gonna not give to somebody who's less fortunate and things like that. I'm not gonna not do for somebody if God puts it in my heart and on my spirit, in my spirit and on my heart and things like that. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Blessings come in many ways and many sizes, factors, and things like that or whatever. But for someone to just sit out there and say that you don't get blessings for blessing people who are less fortunate, that's inaccurate and that's not true. So even have to have a spirit of discernment, and you have to know the word for yourself in order to know when these people are shooting game and running BS by you. So he wants all the money to come into the church where he knows that he can directly benefit from it. He doesn't want anyone to give to the poor and less fortunate, which is so sad. And as far as these millennials are concerned, you have to do what's best for you in terms of your spirituality and in terms of your relationship with God. If you don't believe in God, that's on you. If you do believe in God, that's still on you. But you still have to pray and you still have to be a seeker of knowledge in order to understand the Bible and in order to understand the word.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, the movie focused on that to some degree and everything. It also talks about how certain things that were not as prominent in the Bible days are now out there. So they're trying to figure out how they can deal with it and everything. Because I think they dealt with a little bit about how churches are either dealing with or not dealing with the LGBTQ community and transsexuality and a number of other things like that. And there was a number of folks that even talked about their faith walk, kind of like what you're talking about. And there were some people that chose to go the Eastern religion route, including some African Americans that decided to go the Buddhist route. And like you said, it's really each person's journey and everything. But speaking of that journey and speaking of people pandering toward a certain group and everything, there is no doubt that in my mind, Donald Trump is trying to sometimes pander to the evangelicals. And apparently later on, but as a matter of fact, while we're doing this show, he's going to be appearing at the 11th hour faith leaders meeting here in North Carolina in Charlotte. And he'll be joined by Ben Carson, the former Housing and Urban Development Secretary, and his son, Eric Trump. So if we wanted to, we could jump over and watch that according to the Hill, because that's going to be at 6:30. So there's no doubt in my mind that he's trying to appeal to the evangelicals and all along those lines, because these are North Carolina faith leaders and everything. But I'm sure there'll be some other people that aren't from North Carolina there as well. But it does seem like he's kind of cater toward those evangelicals.
Of course not. He would not get no love and no support on my show. I don't want anything to, be as if I'm supporting this man and things like that or whatever. You brought it up, we can discuss it, but as far as he and airtime and play on my show, that's not gonna happen. The only person that I would the only person that I would give any type of airtime and play is Kamala and things like that, because I support her wholeheartedly and things. Now, granted, I do talk about Trump and things like that or whatever, but as far as giving him airtime and things like that, no, because I don't want people to liken me and think that I'm in tandem with anything that he has going on and things like that or whatever. So no. And my thing is he's pandering to folks, like you said, and he's trying to get people, because he's lied and he's continuing to lie. And he's trying to get people to go out to the polls and vote and things like that. But the thing about it is they have woke a sleeping beast when it comes to young people and things like that, and especially suburban women, suburban moms, for the suburban women and suburban moms. Kamala does, so it's a lot on the line when it comes to women reproductive rights and things like that or whatever. I don't want a man telling me what I can and cannot do with my body, because you don't know my body. You don't understand me as a woman. You don't understand me as a female. You cannot possibly understand what I go through because you've never experienced it. So for someone who has never experienced anything that a female is going through, how can you accurately tell me what's going on with my body? You know what I'm saying? So no, it's a lot on the line and it's a lot at stake in this election. And people need to understand that, it's not just about black and white. It's about all of our rights being infringed upon and taken away and things like that, because this man has already said that he wants to be a dictator. He wants to be in the position for life. He wants his children to run the country and things like that or whatever. And, we need to send him a strong, hard message that we don't want him. His children are corn children. We don't want any of them, and we don't want any of the Republicans who are in cahoots with all the foolishness that he has going on, because there is no way that this man should have a large platform the way that he does after he tried to overthrow the government. And he's now saying that if he doesn't win, that the election is rigged. The election is rigged. We're sending you a strong message that we don't want you. And that's just the bottom line. We don't want you. We support Kamala, and that's who we're going to vote for. And that's who is going to be the next president of the United States.
No, I agree with you, but apparently he's also, because even one of the founders of the network has brought it up a couple of times and everything, but he's out there touting that he is the father of IVF, and that to me makes no sense at all, how he's going to be the father of a birth control method and all along those are a thing to deal with contraception and child rearing and all along those lines. But how he can say he's the father of that is beyond me, and I don't understand this logic of his. But we did get some good news on that front from the Republicans, as we know that Cheney has come out and supported. But another one came out today, and this one may surprise folks, but I'm glad to see that another major Republican Party icon has come out and everything. Well, at least the family has. But Susan Ford Bales, the daughter of former President Ford, just recently came out and endorsed Vice President Harris in the upcoming presidential election. She said, when my father, Gerald Ford, was sworn in as America's 38th president, the nation was in need of a serious, compassionate, and honorable leader who had the courage to do what was right and always defend our Constitution. His dedication to those values helped bring our country through a turbulent time and restored American trust in our democracy. We face a similar dynamic today. So Ford, a Republican, was sworn into office in 1974 and served as vice president to former President Nixon and took over as commander-in-chief after Nixon resigned. And his daughter is also a Republican, who said she may not agree with Harris on everything, but knows she will defend the Constitution and not replicate the horrors of the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. She even said, Vice President Harris and I likely disagree on some policy matters, but her integrity and commitment to those same principles that guided Dad have led me to conclude that Kamala Harris should be elected the 47th president of the United States. So she said Harris recognizes good and greatness in the country and will work beyond partisanship to move forward. So last thing she said is, this is what America deserves from our president, and that's why I am proud to endorse Vice President Harris for president of the United States. So it looks like she has come out and backed our candidate and all along those lines. So it looks like that is some good news that we got another major Republican endorsement. So any thoughts around this? Because Ford was seen as an icon to some in the Republican Party.
Well, I mean, my thing is, there are a lot of Republicans who are low key supporting Kamala and things like that, but I don't think they want to just step out there and say that they're supporting her. And it's a lot of people that are low key supporting her and things like that. But the big push has, and I'm not taking away from anything from her, Ford or whatever, but the big push has been around, Black men and their support of so-called Trump and things like that or whatever. I honestly don't think that he has a lot of support in that category, because it is a lot of Black men who has come out in support of Kamala Harris and say that they are voting for her and things like that or whatever. And I think a lot of the Black men who are, in support of Trump are just, trying to liken themselves just to say, I'm in support of Trump and I believe his policies and I believe this and I believe that, just to say, that they're in, in the know with him and in the mix and things like that or whatever. Because honestly, I don't even think that they have even read, any portions of Project 2025 or, anything like that. And I honestly don't even think that they even understand that the very people that he is mentioning and talking about law and order are them. You know what I'm saying? And they don't get that. It's not anything else. It's, it's sheer racism. And then, there for them to say that they are in agreement with his policies and things. What policies? He said he has a concept of a plan. He doesn't have a plan and things like that. When he went into the office on day one, it was so chaotic. He mishandled the pandemic. Many people died. Only if he would have done what should have been done, instead of blaming China and other countries and things like that or whatever, causing like severe hate towards Asians and stuff like that or whatever. So my thing is, like, you sit there and say that you support this man, but you're trying to pretend that like this man and these white folks who are supporting Donald Trump are not prejudiced and things like that. They even turned on their own Black people who were in support, going to the rallies, beating them up at the rallies. So you mean to tell me, with all of this evidence and all of this data, you gonna still sit there and say that you're going to support and vote for this man and things like that, and he's not racist, he's not this, and he's not that? I mean, Tim Scott is a prime example. He wouldn't even shake Tim Scott's hand, and that was on live national TV. You know what I'm saying? So how in the hell y'all as Black people gonna sit here and say that you gonna vote for this racist and things like that or whatever? It just baffles the hell out of me, because I just cannot wrap my mind around it, honestly.
I can't wrap my head around it, and he's got the endorsement of other billionaires and everything. Because now one of the other things that people are talking about, which apparently he's trying to do that rags to riches story, and all along those lines, because Elon Musk was a major Trump supporter, is claiming that you just have to work hard. Because one of the quotes he said apparently at a graduation is, "It's just simple math. If you work 100 hours a week and others work 50, you'll accomplish twice as much." Because apparently during one of his speeches recently at back in 2014, he told the graduates, you need to work super hard, and explained that when he and his brother started their first company, they couldn't afford an apartment, so they rented a small office and slept on the couch and showered at the YMCA, and were so hard up that we only had one computer. We would code at night. He would code at night, and the website would be live during the day. But it's this notion of the Horatio Alger kind of story where you're just going to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, not understanding that there are other factors involved in that story as well. I'm sure even with him, there were other factors involved, including who some of his backers were and everything. But I love when they give this notion that they were as poor and as struggling as some of us have been and everything. So what's your take when some of these folks are trying to maybe snow us a little bit?
Well, I mean, that's a lie. That's the BS lie. You know what I'm saying? We even have data showing that he was at McDonald's serving French fries and things like that or whatever. Like, come on, dude. Like, honestly, like you're the very reason why you know, the Republicans shut down raising the minimum wage and things like that, talking about the billionaires and they're not going to be able to do that, and you know they're going to close down these stores and things like that or whatever. And I mean, you know, for you to, you know, that's an insult to, you know, like everyday workers and things like that or whatever, who utilizes those positions to support their families and things like that. You never worked at a fast food restaurant a day in your life. You inherited your money from your father. Let's just be clear. Elon Musk, you inherited money from your mother. His mother was a model and he came from millions and things like that. He never pulled himself up by the bootstrap. Trump never did either. But you know, it's really ironic that these people can tell Black people and other minorities, oh, you need to work hard and you need to pull yourself up out of bootstrap, but you didn't. You know what I'm saying? And then you put every obstacle in our way to try to, you know, disenfranchise us and try to keep us from, you know, like earning potential, you know, 6 and 7 figure salaries and things like that. But we are the ones that have to pull ourselves up out of bootstrap. But you inherited your money, and you inherited money from, you know, like the slave trade and the slave economy and you know, things like that or whatever. Because all these companies, these older companies, you know, such as insurance companies, MetLife and, you know, all that, Sears and Montgomery Ward, all of them benefited off the backs of Black people and stuff like that or whatever. And for these CEOs to sit there and say that they have the audacity to say that you have to pull yourself up out of bootstrap, it's so baffling to me. When did Trump kids have to pull themselves up out of bootstrap? You know what I'm saying? When did they go out and work at McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, and things like that? So, you know, I'm just trying to understand, you know, so you sit here and you tell people who are actually working and doing these day-to-day jobs that they have to sit there and pull themselves up out of bootstraps and things like that. And for me, it just, you know, it's just really perplexing how, you know, the poorest of the poor, you know, will try to give all their money to, you know, like these Republicans and donations and, you know, things like that, buying their supplies and stuff. And these people don't even give two rat's asses about you. You know, Trump got mad when he saw y'all protesting and marching and, you know, saying things in support of him. Why did it have to look like that? You know what I'm saying? Why does it matter what your constituents look like? You should be representative of all constituents. But, you know, again, these people are voting against their own best interest. And, you know, like FDR said, if you can convince the poorest white man to think that he's better than the Black man, you got him in your pocket. And that's exactly what they has done, because, you know, they think that, you know, what they're going through or what we're going through, there is not going to happen to them, period.
Yeah, well, I do see another interesting statistic. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because apparently it was in, I think, Newsweek or one of the other recent magazines. And I know from even conversations here in Durham that it does come up. But in a recent study of crime in the U.S., it looks like African Americans are more concerned about the state of crime than our white counterparts. So in a Crime Channel organization survey of 2,000 adults, 70% said they worry about crime a lot or some of the time. However, that number was significantly higher among African Americans than white Americans. Roughly 72% of African Americans were concerned about crime in America versus 68% of white Americans. And there were other groups far more likely to report worrying about crime as well. So roughly 78% of those who watched the news were worried, and 77% of residents in large cities said the same. And generally, it looks like Gen Xers had the most fear about crime in America at 76%, while Republicans had more fear, with 75% of them saying they were worried. But the vast majority, 80% of Americans, said crime played some or a major impact on what they do or where they go. So what is your thoughts about this? Are we more concerned about getting jacked by some sort of criminal or another based on what you're seeing and everything? Or are we just as up to it and everything? Because they even said 80% said it was because of too many illegal drugs. Yes, public perception of what was driving crime varied. 80% was said it was because of too many illegal drugs available to young people, and 77% attributed to a general moral decline in the country, and 76% said it was because of a lack of mental health treatment facilities. So it definitely looks like that is an important issue, and I know it's been an issue that's come up in the elections as well. But I just wanted your take on this, because apparently by at least a little bit, we are more concerned about crime than some of the other populations.
I mean, to be honest with you, I honestly don't think that we're concerned about crime, because they could have done something about crime a long time ago, because they could have addressed poverty. Poverty is a strong predictor of, crime and things like that or whatever. They
Yep.
don't want to, curtail crimes, just like they don't want to curtail, people who are getting guns and, being out there, saying that their Second Amendment right is going to be taken away, if they put policies in place for, mental health people and things like that or whatever. So if they wanted to, make these changes, they could have made these changes a long time ago. It's the United States has some of the toughest laws when it comes to, people who commit crimes, but yet and still we have some of the we lead the world when it comes to, like incarcerated humans, men and women. So, my thing is, why is it so prevalent that, that we are, on the forefront when it comes to, like people who are incarcerated versus, a country who has, less, demanding laws and things like that, and who has less people who are locked up and things. So, my thing is, if they really wanted to combat crime and they really wanted to combat a lot of these things, they would have done so a long time ago. It's not just, something that has, popped up in the mix and things like that or whatever. These people don't want to, fix the system. They don't want people to be successful and things like that. They want to keep the nation dumb and things like that or whatever. They want to keep you in poverty. They don't want you to survive, because they feel like when you become, high on the horse or whatever, they can't control you. So it's all about, control and, things like that or whatever, subliminally sending out, different messages and things like that, because, propaganda was key with Hitler when they, threw the Jews in the incinerator and things like that. They made the people believe that this was the right thing to do. So, my thing is, if they wanted to fix these problems, it could have been fixed a long time ago,
Well,
period.
speaking of problems that they can fix and everything, as you know, sometimes the medical establishment is also not doing that great for us as well, because there was a recent study that came out and everything that talks about after black patients undergo a surgery, they are more likely than their white counterparts to receive only an opioid for post-operation pain relief. I want to say that even when my dad had surgery, that he had, I think it might have been morphine or one of the other ones that's a painkiller, rather than a more nuanced combo of drugs that could work better and everything. So there's something called the analgesics, and so-called multimodal analgesics is the recommended way to go. But experts say that unfortunately our patients, African American patients, are 29% less likely to receive it. So it looks like a lot of times we are not we are getting things that could be more harmful than helpful and everything. So I don't know any thoughts around that, because I do know that that is a concern, that sometimes we don't get the kind of medication and medicine that we should. I won't say that it even come up in the way that women, meaning African American women, are treated in maternity and all along those lines. But any thoughts about how the medical establishment has its racist problems as well?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is we've already known that, there's racism in the medical field. And I tell people, black doctors understand black issues. Seek out
Mm.
black doctors, bottom line. I mean, I live here in DC. So one of the first things that I did was I sought out black doctors. And what better place to go is Howard University Hospital.
Mhm.
So my gynecologist is over at Howard University Hospital. And I always ask my gynecologist, who would be a great doctor for me to, go to as my primary and things like that or whatever. So black doctors refer you to black doctors. So if that's what you want, seek out a black physician or whatever. Because I haven't seen a white physician since I think I lived here in the city, and things like that or whatever. So like I tell people all the time, black doctors understand black issues. If you want your issues taken care of and you want your issues understood, seek out a black doctor.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything. I know sometimes we talk about some of the other communities, and I know you're going to love this one, but apparently our fine folks in Puerto Rico are about to get a federal government loan of about $860 million, because the federal government announced today, meaning Monday, a $860 million private loan guarantee for the construction of solar and battery storage facilities for Puerto Rico, because that's getting them one step closer to their 2050 goal to be energy independent amid a
Mhm.
slow global movement to transition to clean, renewable energy like other places in the United States, such as Hawaii and California, but it looks like they are going to get a sizable portion of money. And I know there are some people that have even talked about independence for Puerto Rico as well. But it looks like they're about to get a nice little check in order to build these solar panels and get the solar going in Puerto Rico. So well, I don't know if you got any thoughts about whether Puerto Rico should be a state or not, and whether they should get this money and everything. But it looks like they're about to get this big check.
Honestly, I don't care because they put their trust in Trump and things like that or whatever. So my thing is, let the Republicans help them out. I don't want my black tax dollars going over nowhere that we're not wanted and warranted and things like that or whatever. And don't get me wrong, it's not all Puerto Ricans, but the vast majority of them bask in the glory of these white folks. But then Trump, he threw supplies at them. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even, treat them with respect and dignity and things like that. He was throwing supplies at, Puerto Ricans and stuff like that or whatever. But then in the aftermath, you want black people, black Americans to step up and take care of, what the white folks did not step up and take care of and things like that or whatever. So, my thing is to each his own. When y'all start respecting us, we'll start respecting you. And that's just the bottom line. You know what I'm saying? Honestly. Period. So, I'm sorry, I paused for a second because I got a text popped up on my phone. But, that's also like, these people are talking about Palestinians and, black people should not vote for Kamala and things. Don't tell black people who we should and should not vote for. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to be black until it's time to be black. You know what I'm saying? Y'all want the culture. Y'all want our men. Y'all want our women and things like that. But when it's time to actually stand up and step up and be black and, voice your opinion and, go against the status quo, then everybody is on crickets. It's crickets. Everybody's on mute at that point, and I always say everybody wants to be black until it's time to be black and things like that or whatever. So, my thing is, stop enlisting black people to do certain things or whatever, because we already have enough going on as it is, and for, you people who are coming into the country talking about, oh, you don't deal with black people, you don't do this, you don't do that. How in the hell you think that you're able to do and say any of the things that you're able to do and say is because of a black person? One of our, one of our elders, one of our ancestors and things like that or whatever, fought for the right for you to come over and for you to be able to, have these freedoms and things like that or whatever. So my thing is, stop trying to tell black people who we can and cannot vote for, how we supposed to feel and what we're supposed to do and things like that. Because, white women good for that. Trying to tell black women and black people what we're supposed to think and how we're supposed to think and things like that or whatever,
Yeah, and like I said, we got these athletes that are doing crazy things, and I don't get it because even ex-star Lavon Bell was another one of those people that played, I think, for the Steelers and everything. He's under fire for some remarks that he made that basically people are saying were very racist and all along those lines, and also sexist as well. So definitely, apparently, he posted a picture of himself on X with the caption "Trump or the." Another word for like folks that are not that well respected and everything that is kind of connected to Trump if you remove a letter and everything along those lines. So he said that wearing a T-shirt with the same words above the viral photo of Trump and pumping his fist after the attempted assassination on his life next to a vice president of Kamala Harris making an unflattering face and everything. So definitely, if you think about certain movies that had a certain title of a movie of a thing that can be very derogatory, that's what he did. And it wasn't that long ago that he did that and everything. So yeah, I don't get these athletes that are coming out in support of Trump and all along those lines, but definitely it'll be interesting in that space. I got given off of that just for a second. I did see another article that was quite interesting, and you're a teacher and an educator, so maybe you've got some thoughts about this. But there is an article that came out recently that says that more African American children are experiencing the changes and challenges of puberty earlier than others. So it says that they're experiencing that, and it was a report from the 2024 report from Harvard Chain School of Public Health, and that African American girls from lower lower economic statuses are starting their period before the average age, and a 2012 study noted an early onset of puberty for boys in the U.S., with African American boys reaching puberty earlier than other groups. So it says that puberty is starting earlier and lasting longer, according to bestselling author Nancy Reid in an interview with the Griot. We must prepare kids for these changes with accurate information, allowing them to understand and embrace their bodies without shame. So I was just wondering your take on this, and are we doing something with our food, or is there a reason that our folks, particularly in our community, are starting to experience earlier puberty than they might have done historically and everything? So they're saying that there are factors like diet, stress, and possible epigenetic influences that have been cited as well. But you're an educator, so have you observed that? Because you would see these kids much more than I would.
So it's definitely the food. I think it's the steroids and things that they're using, and those cloning drugs that they're using to clone, food, the chickens, especially chickens. Because if you go in the store, the chicken, chicken meat is so large now, and you can tell that the chickens were on steroids and things like that. So it's definitely, for me, the food definitely plays a role into, how it affects our bodies and things like that. Not only does the food, but also, stress can, bring up on certain things, and then genetics too. So we have to understand how genetics work when it comes to, female bodies and things like that or whatever. Because some women start their cycles, around 8 years old. But the typical age is around 12 and things like that or whatever. But some younger women have, experienced even menopause, at an early age and things like that or whatever. So we just have to, be diligent about, what's happening and things like that or whatever when it comes to, like the intake of, food and stuff like that or whatever. So, yeah.
It sounds like because they were even saying it was impacting other things as well. Because I think I even heard it was impacting some of the things dealing with women's body parts as well, like with the menstruation. Because it says that new study has recently found that African American children are beginning to menstruate at earlier ages. So it does look like
Mhm.
there is a number of things that are going on in that space and everything. And definitely that's interesting and everything. I know that we need holidays for everything, and I don't mind that because there is holidays for a little bit of everything. But as I was doing some of the research for this, I did not realize, because apparently it
Mhm.
was the last week and everything, that there was literally a day called World Menopause Day. So apparently there was a day giving
Mhm.
y'all acknowledgement of what you ladies go through and everything. But I know that we give days for everything, and definitely there was that even notion of Claire Huxtable shoving her head in a freezer in a semi jest and everything, talking about what you ladies go through. So maybe it deserves a holiday, but that one actually caught me off guard. That we have a World Menopause Day and everything, but apparently there is a World.
Honestly, honestly, I am not surprised. You know what I'm saying? They have a day for everything. So, it nothing surprises me and shocks me anymore. So, hey, like I said, it is what it is. But I'm ready for menopause. I'm ready for all this to be over and things like that or whatever. Because when you get to be a certain age and things like that, you just ready. And that's one of the things that I'm definitely ready for, is it to be over. Honestly.
Yeah, that makes sense and everything. Have you been following it all this New York case and all along those lines? Because apparently jury selection was beginning for a trial of a man charged in the New York City subway chokehold death, and I vaguely remember that, but I don't know
Mhm.
enough about it. So have you been following that at all? And if so, what is your take on that particular case?
He needs to go to jail. And hands down, you put a man in a chokehold, and for no apparent reason or whatever, because you're not a law enforcement, and then the man lost his life. You just, hands down, you need to be, held accountable, and you need to, face the piper and face your punishment. And that's just the bottom line. But quite naturally, they're going to say he has mental health, because when it comes to them, they always have mental health problems. It's never a direct, hate crime or things like that or whatever. It's always, they have mental health problems, and they try to get them off with lesser sentences and, things like that or whatever. So yeah, definitely.
But
Hmm.
we lost a legend, and maybe you want to reflect on what she was a legend for. But apparently, it happened recently. It might have been even earlier today or this weekend. But Thelma Mother Shed Ware, which is one of the 9 African American students who integrated a high school in Arkansas's capital city of
Mm-hmm.
Little Rock in 1957, while a mob of white segregationists yelled threats and insult, died at the age of 83. So she definitely was a pioneer and a young pioneer. So, and it was actually on Saturday that she passed away after having complications from MS, and her sister Grace Davis confirmed that on yesterday. So, any thoughts about this pioneer? Because for 3 weeks in September 1957, Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus used the National Guard to block the black students from enrolling in Central High 3 years after the U.S. Supreme Court declared segregated classrooms were unconstitutional, and President Dwight D. Eisenhower sent members of the Army's 101st Airborne Division to escort the students into school on September 25th, 1957. And later, she was enrolled at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, where when her sister and the other students, David said she was enrolled in the university at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville when her sister and the other students, Minna Jean Brown, Elizabeth Eckford, Ernest Green, Melba Patello, Gloria Ray, Terrence Roberts, Jefferson Thomas, and Carletta Walls integrated Central High School. So I don't think anybody was really going to hurt her because, we've had racial incidents in Rock over the years. David said of her sister, people would say things that were mean, but they never really hurt anybody. David said in the years that followed, she and her sister spoke about the experience. I think one time somebody put some ink on her skirt or something when she was coming through the hallways. And of course, there was always name calling, but she never really had any physical confrontations with any of the students up there. And it definitely looks like Faubus closed all the schools in Little Rock in 1958 to try to avoid further integration. But Mother Shed went out of state to finish her remaining high school classes, and the academic credit transferred back to Little Rock, and she ultimately earned her diploma from Central High School. So any thoughts just around this legitimate fighter? Matter of fact, David said she was always a fighter. She's been sick her entire life. She was born with a congenital heart defect and was told at an early age that she would never get out of her teens. So as she approached her 16th birthday, I remember her mother talking about how afraid she was because she thought she was going to die. But she did what she wanted to do. She enjoyed life.
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Our pioneers paved the way for a lot of people to come over to this country and, live and enjoy some of the simple liberties that they were denied and that they could not experience. Segregation only happened in the 1950s. That's not that long ago. We still have people that were discriminated against, and, we still have places that are still segregated. And that's what I try to, convey and get people to understand. And you're out here talking about, you want to be a Trump supporter and things like that or whatever. This woman was a pioneer. She did things that, benefited all of us and things like that or whatever. And, Harriet Tubman and some Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, if they would have known what is to come and what has come with these folks, they would be turning over in their graves and things like that or whatever. Because for the life of me, I just don't understand why it's so hard for these people to understand that, our Black people fought long and hard and still fighting for, certain rights and liberties that, other folks get to enjoy freely and things like that or whatever. So big kudos to her. And I'm glad God blessed us with her and put her in, our generation and our time so that she could step up and be a pioneer for us. And so that she, was a trailblazer and she did what she needed to do.
Yep, I agree. She was definitely a true trailblazer and all along those lines, and did some amazing work in that sense and everything. So definitely got to have more folks like that doing this kind of powerful work and all along those lines. I didn't get to it, but I'll get to it now. Any thoughts about what's going on lately, if anything, with the Sean Puffy Combs case and everything like that? Because definitely it looks like a lot of folks are still following that case and are trying to figure out what's going on in that space. So definitely looks like there are folks that are still wondering about that and everything. So any thoughts about that particular case?
I think it's a lot of people that's going to be bandwagoners. They're going to jump on the bandwagon because they're out to get money. Same thing that happened with Bill Cosby and any other powerful man and things like that. Not saying that I'm taking away from victims, but it's just the reality of it. But my thing is, everyone, if you're trying to expose and trying to sue this man, you need to be, he has a right to confront his accusers. And one of the things is that his attorneys are asking for is, who's the accuser? So I think that they have some other things up their sleeves in terms of his defense and things like that when it comes to these people. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have documentation that these people, knew what they were doing and they signed their rights away and things like that or whatever. Because, at the end of the day, these people thought that, they were going to make it big, they were going to be successful, and they did any and everything to try to, go out there and, try to get this money. Just like, what's a woman named Jaguar Wright? I had no idea who she was prior to, all of this coming into the media. And I honestly believe this woman is lying, because my thing is, how the hell about any celebrity, all celebrities, and what goes on with these celebrities? I mean, I just saw a video posting of her talking about Megan Thee Stallion is a man and things like that. She's a tranny and stuff. How do you know she's a man? How do you know she's a tranny? My thing is, I think this woman is just out for clout, and she's trying to get her name out there and things like that or whatever, because you did unsavory things thinking that your career was going to pop off and you were going to be able to do what you do and stuff like that or whatever. And it's just not happening. So, I mean, my thing is, it's going to be interesting to see when it all boils down to it, when it all hits the fan and things like that or whatever, when all the names come out as to who is accusing who and who has done what and who has said what. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I keep up with it briefly on social media. When it pops up on my timeline, I just don't go out seeking for the information. But when the stories pop up, I will read just, for knowledge sake and things like that or whatever. But it is going to be interesting to see who are all these people that are bringing up these charges, because my thing is, he has a right to a fair trial. He has a right to, confront his accuser. He has a right to do all these things. So let's just see where it goes. And, who's on the end of accusing Puffy of like sexual assault and things like that or whatever, because it's going to be very interesting to see. And I also saw that they had in the newspapers that they were trying to tie other celebrities into these parties and things like that or whatever. So it's going to be very interesting. That the people that are being, outed in these, explicit type parties, these sexual type parties and things like that or whatever. So it is going to be very interesting. That's all I can say. It's going to be very interesting to see, because I'm kind of on pins and needles about, who these people are, trying to put out there and things like that. I mean, because I said it before, even with the Me Too movement, nobody is safe these days. With the Me Too movement, it was hijacked by white women. They took over it and things like that or whatever. So, a lot of people, a lot of innocent people were accused and, convicted because a woman basically said that she was sexually assaulted. I remember there was a story once where this black guy was convicted of rape because the woman talking about she had a dream that this black man raped her. You know what I'm saying? Never touched her, never even, really had conversation, but she had a dream and the man was convicted of rape. So, my thing is, I really want to know who the characters are in the story.
And apparently they're supposed to be three. Jane Doe's filed lawsuit on October 20th accusing the rap mogul of sexual assault. So they are doing that and all along those lines. But I want to get to a lighter story just because it's we're winding down and everything and all along those lines. But I was just wondering that I know that you went to, I believe it was Southern, and here at Central we are having the whole notion of homecoming. I think Hezekiah Walker did the gospel show on Sunday, and the other show will be on Thursday and everything. And I think that Florida A&M, your school of Southern, and Grambling and others have already had their explosive weekends and everything. So I just wanted to, those that are not familiar or as familiar, and even though I went to a PWI, predominantly white institution at Marquette, I have always had many friends and family members that went to HBCU. So I do know the importance from my own mind of the HBCU and the homecoming experience, but not everybody does. So if you just want to share some of your homecoming thoughts and the importance of homecoming, as this is homecoming weekend for a number of our HBCUs, some that have already passed and some that are going on now.
Yeah, so Southern had their homecoming. Southern and Grambling had their homecoming a weekend ago. My alma mater, Northwestern State University homecoming is this coming up weekend and things like that or whatever. So people go to homecoming for a lot of different reasons, and a lot of people go to the games when it comes to HBCUs just to see the band. When we go see Southern and Grambling play, a lot of people leave at halftime because I go for the band, the battle of the bands, and things like that or whatever. I go for the halftime show. And I mean, don't get me wrong, granted, I do want Southern to always win, but my main priority is going to see the band and to see how they're going to perform and things like that or whatever, and the other festivities, not necessarily going to the game. And so my thing is, if you know, if you don't know, then you just don't know. You know what I'm saying? So this Southern and Grambling has been ingrained in us since like I was born 1974. Just the camaraderie around the HBCUs and the things that we do in terms of family and support, and the drum majors, the dance line, the dolls, and things like that or whatever. It's just amazing to get a chance to go out there and see. I will be going back to Bayou Classic. I did not go last year because I was in Italy, but I will be going back this year to go to Bayou Classic because I miss it and things like that. So I'm really excited to see, what each one of the schools is going to bring in terms of their band, their dancers, the drum majors, and, things like that or whatever. Although I did not go to Grambling, my papa did, but I went to Southern University in Baton Rouge and also Prairie View A&M University in Prairie View, Texas, and things like that or whatever. So, my thing is, enjoy the ride. Howard just had their homecoming last week, and it was a major thing for the city. Is a lot of events that's going on. They have their step show that's on Friday nights, like most of them do, and things like that or whatever. So it is going to be very interesting to see, what is going to take place when it comes to, the halftime show and, the battle of the bands, the parade, and, all those things and stuff like that or whatever. So I am really, 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 really excited about going back to New Orleans for Bayou Classic and to, check out two of the most prominent HBCUs that are, put on the map because of their bands. So I am really, really, really excited about that. And I cannot wait. If you have never experienced the HBCU and experienced the band and the battle of the bands, the step show and things like that, you are in for a treat if you ever do go. So I implore you to go out there and, just experience the life, experience the culture, and just know that it's a totally different vibe. So yeah, definitely go out there if you have never experienced it, and if you have experienced it, go back and experience it again, because we are all we got at the end of the day, and we have to support each other, because HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, were created because they did not want us on their campuses. They did not want us in their Greek fraternities and sororities. So that's how the Divine Nine came about and things like that. And the Divine Nine represents, community service and, amongst other things. So if you have not actually experienced any of this, please make sure you go out and experience it and things like that or whatever, and get your hands, and get your feet wet and dirty with the HBCUs, the culture, the life, and things like that. And like I said, I am super excited about, going to the Battle of the Bands, going to homecoming at Northwestern State, because Northwestern State is a PWI, but trust and believe, we act as if it is a HBCU. Because when we get together and things like that or whatever. So yes, definitely go out there and participate and do what you do.
No, just really quickly, because the last story I was going to get to and everything was the whole notion of rivalry and everything, because there's always that conflict between uh definitely Kanye West and 50 Cent. Some people say it changed hip hop forever and everything, and of course there's Biggie versus Tupac, Roxanne Jenkins versus the real Roxanne, LL Cool J versus MOD, and Drake versus, well, just about everybody. But just what is your thoughts about these rap rivalries? And it looks like it's nearly 2 years ago that Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and the artist formerly known as Kanye West got into this war of worlds that became known as the one of the most influential beefs in hip hop history.
Mm-hmm.
It was really a beef that was manufactured and everything. What are your take on these beefs and everything.
I'm sorry, ask me that again.
What was your take on these manufactured beefs? Because some of you are saying there was not as much of a beef as they made it out to be between Kanye and
Honestly,
50 Cent.
honestly, I have no idea because I didn't keep up with it. I really don't keep up with, like Kanye and things like that and what he has going on. So I, honestly, I
Oh,
can't
that's
even
fair
give
enough.
you
That's fair enough.
no insight on it because I don't know. I don't keep up with him like that. So I could care less.
That's
I
fair
could
enough
care
and
less
everything.
about, who he's beefing with and what he has going on.
Cool. Well, I'm going to pop up, and when you're ready, just any closing words you want and everything. But it's been another great conversation. But any closing words, and then I'll play the video once you're done with the closing words. But definitely a great conversation. As always, I enjoy
Yes.
talking to you. And as always, you're looking beautiful as always. But look forward to more
Thank you.
conversations on next week.
Yes, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you click like and share and things like that or whatever. We're trying to, become number one in the States. I'm already number one overseas, and things like that or whatever. But make sure you click like, share and things like that or whatever. And if you have not early voted, make sure you go ahead and early vote. I do know that there are several situations where the Divine Nine has set up Stroll to the Polls. So I've been seeing it on social media. So let's continue the energy and the momentum, and let's continue to stroll to the polls. I will not be early voting, but I will vote on November 5th and things like that or whatever. So let's go ahead and elect our first woman president and do what we need to do and understand the assignment. So with that being said, the clock on the wall says that's all, y'all. So make sure y'all tune in next week for some more lively topics and things like that. Deuces, my loves. Where are you, Mark? What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves.